morning we're talking about burglaries and why it is that 77% of burglaries, that's 3/4 of burglaries, nothing. They're not solved, case is closed, no suspect, nothing. How is that possible in this day and age? So I asked for a burglar to phone in, and we've got one. We're ex-burglar. But the questions will be the same, and I suspect the answers will be too. It's Matthew, who's in Devon, he's paid for his crimes. He's spent 30 years in prison for burglaries. I think that means you've paid society back, Matthew. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Petrie.
OK, so why? Why burglaries?
Well, I've had drug problems dating right back to the early 80s. I was brought up properly in Torquay, and I had gambling addiction to start with, fruit machines, arcades, and it ended up turning into drugs, and it ended up being a lot of burglaries over a lot of years, and I'm now 62 years old, so...
And 30 years is a long time. I mean, that can't have been one sentence, right? So you were in and out of prison.
No, it's in and out, in and out, in and out for all those years since 1981. Wow. Detention centre, 3 Borstals, and many prison sentences, ranging from anything from 6 months up to 6 years.
Right. OK. And are you completely finished with that lifestyle now?
Came out of prison 18 months ago, having committed a crime since.
Well, that's good. That is good. Are you off all the addictions?
I'm on a drug called Subutex, which is a little bit like methadone. It's a substitute, and there seems no reason to commit crime now. So,
and do you think, Matthew, that most prolific career burglars like yourself are dealing with gambling or other addictions, drugs, alcohol, gambling? Would you say, what percentage would you say are dealing with that?
Well, probably I would say about 90%, although I think it was Robert who was talking on the telly just now. I just happened to wake up and catch this, and I think it was Robert, and he was blaming a lot on travellers. Now, I don't want to fall out with travellers, but I would blame it a lot on travellers as well. But a lot of it is to do with drugs, drink problems. I know it's not an excuse to go out and break into people's houses. No, conscience kind of catches up with you in the end.
Yeah, I was going to ask about your conscience. I mean, OK, look, an addiction is it's the only thing you care about, it's the only thing you think about, it's the only relationship you have, OK, with your addiction. It's the only one, it's the only thing that matters. But did you think about what you were doing to other people, or did you just think, oh, well, they can afford it?
You just don't kind of... I thought about this many times. I've spent 20 years writing a book on it all. You don't quite think about it at the time. Criminals don't start off as a shoplifter and then end up as a murderer. They don't always go up through the scale. But you kind of might have a friend who's out doing it, and then at first you're too scared to do it, and then you see the kind of lifestyle they're living. They're being able to get drugs more easily, and you just start taking those chances. And I've done it all from burglary to aggravated burglaries. There's no violence on my record, thank goodness, because the chances are you could end up, all sorts could happen. I've been taken away in ambulances, I've been caught on the burglaries, I've come off worse and then been taken away by ambulance. And
where people were defending their homes?
Yes, and I've still come back out of prison and done it. It's a hard habit to break, and there's no such thing as rehabilitation going on in our prisons, and there hasn't been for many years. And I remember the prison population being at 45,000.
It's double that now, isn't it?
90,000. Yes. And
but Matthew, when you broke into people's houses, was it just opportunity, or did you case places? Were you aware of what people had? Was it just going through an open back door?
Yes, I open back doors, open windows. I have actually driven around all day long looking for places, and then got up early in the morning, been driving around from 7 a.m. in the morning till early evening, and then maybe just as it's getting dusk, fly in and out of open windows. I think you had another caller who was saying that. But then there's a lot of crime now isn't done like that. It's spur of the moment stuff. But I was led to believe that burglary was a thing of the past. I keep saying to my sister, I say to her, she says, "Oh, I must shut the window. Like, apart from me, I say to her, burglaries don't happen anymore. There's too much CCTV, but obviously they
You're
do.
wrong. Yeah.
In some places they do.
You're wrong. It's
Hampshire,
it's a burglary every 164 seconds.
In Britain,
in England and Wales.
Yeah.
No. So, a lot of people listening or watching might think, well, you had all that time to drive around. You had a car. Why didn't you get a job? You know, I mean, you put quite a lot of effort into burglarising people.
Yes, I had little jobs, and I so wish I could have kept with that. I didn't want to be out burgling.
Did you have any sympathy for your victims at the time? Any sympathy for your victims at the time?
To be honest, you don't really think about it, apart from maybe when you're locked up and you've got nothing to do and you're in another situation, you think about it then, but at the time you don't, or I didn't. No, not very much, not enough to stop me. But then I always wanted help. I always wanted to kind of be living another life, not living that chaotic drug life. And I had a girlfriend who had a drug problem, so I would have to go out and find money for her. And then when I was banned from driving, I would then abide by the law and have a driver, so then he would have a drug problem. I would have to go out and find money for them. And back in the 80s, I would have to find £600 a day before we even thought about things like petrol, clothes.
What? £600 a day? So how many burglaries do you think you carried out?
Because heroin was £80 an ounce. I'm probably the most prolific burglar from Land's End to Winchester.
How many, can you remember?
Thousands upon thousands. I've done about 40 prison sentences. I've done burglaries. I've done prison for burglaries that I haven't done, burglaries that never even occurred, and it just became a awful cycle. And
so you'd be one of those people who'd be standing up in court saying, can you take 234 other cases into account?
I only ever did that once, and I realised that was a mistake, because you get such a previous record that doesn't do me any good neither. So I only ever did that once, and I think it was about 64 I had taken into account.
But you carried out thousands of burglaries? Yes. What would you look for in the 80s? In a property?
Jewellery and money. That was all, and porcelain back then. But now, if I was doing it, it would be jewellery and money. And I know it's a horrendous thing to do, especially the jewellery. All of it is. Because
that's often got a sentimental...
Yes, yeah. No, it's invading people's lives. It's an awful thing to do. I've been burgled myself.
How ironic.
Yeah.
How did you feel when you were burgled?
Times. Well, I've had my car stolen, bike stolen. How could I feel? my girlfriend woke me up one night and said, there's a burglar downstairs, there's a burglar downstairs. And I said, I'm not going down there. What do you want me to do about it? Because I know they get desperate. They've got to get away. And there wasn't a burglar downstairs, but
Wow.
no, it's an awful thing, and anything can happen. That's the worst thing. You can end up from one situation to another situation. And I used to go out and burgle with friends, and one of the burglaries went a little bit wrong, and I realised that I couldn't control his reactions to what was happening. I was only in charge of my own reactions, and the burglary turned from a burglary to aggravated burglary.
Because you were attacked?
Yes, by the occupants of the house. So then I never went out burgling with other people. I kept it to myself. But
because they got violent, did they?
Yes.
Wow.
The other person who I was with, because we were seen, and he started ripping telephone leads out of the walls and all that. And luckily enough, I did manage to get him to leave the property, but anything, it could have turned into anything. And
that's terrifying. Listen, I admire you, Matthew, for phoning and having that conversation with me and copping to it. Really, I think that takes something, and I think that you sound like you genuinely regret what you did.
No, I genuinely do. I know I sound like butter wouldn't melt, and I kind of look like that as well. I don't look like a burglar. I don't look like a drug addict. And
that's how you got away with it. Mind you, you did 30 years in jail. Wow. Incredible. I wanted to speak to somebody, ask them the questions, and there you go. Matthew from Devon there has spent collectively about 30 years in prison.